Today I'm going to teach you how to download, set up, and use the free reference manager Zotero. So go ahead and give this video a like and let's get started. To kick things off, go ahead and head over to zotero.org where we'll begin the installation process. From here, go ahead and start by clicking the big download button, which will bring you to the download packages for both the Zotero desktop app as well as the Zotero connector plugin. The Zotero connector plugin is simply a browser plugin that will allow you to import sources directly from the internet into your Zotero library. Quick note, Zotero also has plugins available for Google Docs and Microsoft Words, where your library will be linked to those platforms for easy referencing and citing. I'm going to cover those in separate videos, which you're welcome to check out. In the meantime, let's go ahead and install the desktop software. Now, before you hit download, you do want to make sure that it's matching your operating system. If it's not, go ahead and select other platforms. Here, though, we are using Windows, so we're going to go ahead and hit download. And now this becomes a matter of following the prompts and letting the setup wizard do its thing. You'll know installation is complete when it says finished and the Zotero app automatically opens. Now, before we tear into this, let's go ahead and install the Zotero connector. To do this, you can find the setup from the tools in your library or simply head back over to zotero.org. Now we're going to follow a similar process in that we're going to start by selecting install and then follow the different prompts until you're prompted that the installation is successful. To make sure, you can go back into your extensions from your web browser to make sure that you see Zotero connector there. We do means we're good to go, so let's head back over to the Zotero library. Okay, here we are. You're looking at the standard user interface for Zotero. Now, it's a little quiet in here, so we're going to start by adding some references. And you have 4 different options. 1, you can add them manually. 2, you can upload a PDF. 3, you can add the reference by an identifier. And then 4, you have the option to import it using the Zotero connector plugin. Let's go ahead and start by adding a reference manually. To do this, you can either select File and then New Item from the top, or you can select the new item icon here, which is the green circle. This dropdown is going to populate your most frequently used items or source types here at the top. If you don't see your source type there, you'll select More, in which you can see it populates a much longer list. Now, it's important that you select the right type of source because it's going to generate different fields for you to fill in. So for example, let's go ahead and select a journal article. You can see that's within the most frequently used options. Over here on the right, note how we have fields that pertain to journal articles. So the publication, volume number, issue number, page range, so on and so forth. Now let's say that we wanted to add a book, which is also located in our most frequently used. Note how the fields are different. So here we have fields like the series number, again, the volume number, or perhaps the number of volumes, the edition, again, different fields that pertain to the type of source. What's kind of cool is that Zotero will actually assign an icon based on the source, which you can see within the library, which will help with easy filing later on, which we'll get to in just a bit. For now, let's go ahead and add a journal article manually. So here we are within the reference. Now we need to go through and fill in these fields. The first is probably going to be the title. And so let's go ahead and copy and paste from the journal article, which I recommend doing. So 1, saves time and it ensures that you enter it correctly. Once the title is within the field, go ahead and select enter. And then note how within the library, it's starting to build out the reference. But now let's go ahead and move on to the next element, which is going to be the author. First, note how there's a drop-down menu. This is in case that, let's say the person responsible for this source isn't the author, let's say it's the editor, then you have the option to change that. We are, however, including authors, so we're going to keep it as is. To do this, we're going to add them by last name first, followed by the first name. You can hit Tab to easily navigate between the 2 fields, and then just as before, go ahead and select Enter. Since our source has more than 1 author, we're going to use this plus icon and add them all in consecutively like this. From here, we have a field for the abstract. And quite frankly, if you have access to your abstract, I recommend copying and pasting it in this field simply because it's going to help with your researching process and being able to refer back to this source later on. Next, we have the rest of the publication information, which I'm going to go ahead and just fill in because this part is kind of self-explanatory. Okay, so I finished filling in all the relevant information here. Let's go ahead and add this same source, except we're going to use the identifier. In this case, the identifier will be a DOI number since it's a journal article. So we're going to use the identifier icon up here. Go ahead and paste that DOI number in, hit enter, give it a second, and look at that. All of the information, plus additional information, might I say, has been added for this reference. That being said, note how the abstract wasn't included here. This is because this file included the PDF version. And so this is what's nice about using an identifier is that it often will attach the PDF version if it's available. So if we double click this icon, that brings us to the PDF editor. As you can see, we have access to the entire article, which is incredibly convenient. What's even more convenient is the fact that we can edit this. So from our top toolbar, we have the option to highlight text. Just like that. We also can add notes. So let's say I want to add a note next to this abstract. I would just click and add my interesting note like that. Another option is to select a section. So maybe instead of adding a note about the abstract, I could select the entire thing. And then from here, I can add comments. So my interesting comment instead. The PDF editor is incredibly helpful when it comes to writing assignments like an annotated bibliography or a literature review, which if you want to see how I use a free reference manager to do that, let me know in the comment section below. But for now, we're going to click out of this PDF attachment and go back to our reference library. Now we have two of the same references, however. What's really nice about Zotero is they have a duplicate items section where it'll show you recommendations for duplicates, which I find it's pretty accurate. So by clicking one, it'll highlight both, and then note that you have the option to merge the two items. This is so helpful because it makes sure that you have all of the information in the one reference. It doesn't delete any of the information by getting rid of the duplicate reference. Because of this, I always recommend checking for duplicate items first before deleting references from the library. Only delete a reference if you truly don't need the source material, otherwise you're always going to want to merge those duplicates. But now let's move on to the next way you can add a reference, which is by uploading a PDF. So in this case, let's say you have some files saved on your computer from research, and hopefully you have a better naming system than I have here, but regardless, to upload this PDF, you're simply going to drag and drop into the center of the library, and it'll take a second, and note how it populated the PDF just as if we had added this by the DOI number. This is an incredibly helpful option for uploading multiple PDFs at once. So for example, let's say I want to add these three. I can highlight all three, drop them into the library. Again, give it a second. Let's see what the memo is here. Oh, it's simply processing. And just like that, we have all of our articles uploaded into the library ready to use. That leaves us with the final option for adding a reference, which is to use the Zotero connector plugin. So for this, I'm going to open up Google Scholar and let's add a few. So for example, perhaps we like this first article. To use the Zotero connector plugin, you want to go up to your browser, select extensions, and then here we're going to use Zotero connector. Now be sure to watch my library while I click the connector. See how quickly it imported it into the library? However, do note how I have an error message saying that it did not upload the full text PDF. If you ever see that, just know that you need to do your due diligence to see, is there a PDF available? Because if there is, I'm going to click the PDF instead, and from here, go to the extensions, select Zotero connector, and There we go. Now I have the same reference, but it includes the PDF file, which again, you probably always want to use for research later on. Let's go ahead and upload one more from this page. Again, I'm going to click into the article. We're going to go into our extensions, select Zotero connector, and this time it appears that it did upload the full PDF, so we're good to go here. Something that's really cool to note about the connector plugin is that it works no matter what the type of source is. So let's say we're just searching Google, we have our search term here. We find this, which is by the New York Times, so it's not a journal article, it's a news article. Again, watch the library, and boom, there we go. We have our little newspaper article right there. One more point to take this further is, let's say you're browsing YouTube, you find this cool channel, you like this YouTube video that you know you're going to use in your research at some point. Well, guess what? The Zotero connector plugin will work for YouTube as well. As you can see, we have our little video icon, our video is located there, and it includes all the information so you can build this out in your bibliography later on. But now that we have a few references to work with, let's go ahead and go through the library and talk about organizing and using them. Okay? First things first, let's take a look at the user interface. As you've probably already gathered, all of your sources are going to be located in the center window. If you click on a source, it'll bring up the information on the right-hand side. Now, notice how some of the references have a drop-down menu. That simply means that that reference has an attachment available. So albeit a PDF, perhaps a note you created. In this case, we have a snapshot. In Zotero, a snapshot will bring you to the exact location. In this case, this was an online article located in the New York Times. Not only that, but take a look at the right-hand side of the library. It brought up a notepad, so you can come over here and take notes while you read through the online article, almost as if this were the PDF editor. Speaking of notes, let's say I want to add a note to the reference rather than within the snapshot or the PDF editor. To do this, go ahead and click on the main reference, toggle over to the Notes tab, select Add, and then from here, you can add your super cool note. Notice how now it's added as a specific file within the reference. To add another one, go back to the main reference, select Add again, and you can add another cool note. Now, if you want to delete any of these, it's just as simple. Go back to the main reference, select the minus icon from the right, delete, OK. And just like that, we're good to go. Now let's say you want to add a note to the library that's not attached to any specific reference. To do this, come up to the top toolbar, select New Note, and then be sure to select New Standalone Note. As you can see, it adds it as its own specific entry to your library. Over in the notes editor, you can add whatever you'd like. For example, social media addiction seems to be a common theme among our references. So now we have our own note where we can use for our research. A few quick features I like about the notes section is I can copy and paste information. Say I found a statistic I liked from another article. I can actually put the in-text citation right along with it by selecting Insert Citation. I will search for, let's say, the name of the article. It will search my library. I don't know if you can see that fully, but it searched my library. It pulled up the in-text citation. I select Enter, and now it's included with that statistic. I can also add a related article to this note. So down here where it says Related, if you click, it pulls up your entire library. And then from here, let's say, social media addiction, this article right here, I want to attach to this note. I can do so, and now it makes it easy for me to toggle back and forth between the article and this notepad. This is just a few features this note section can do. Again, if you want a video on this topic, be sure to let me know in the comment section as well. What I want to do now is go back to the reference we were previously in because we have two more tabs to cover. Let's start with tags. So tags are going to be keywords that are relevant to each reference entry. As you can see, we already have a long list of keywords associated with this particular reference. That's because Zotero has a default setting that automatically populates tags for all of the different entries that are imported or added into the library. If you want to turn off this setting, you can do so by coming up to Edit, select Preferences, and then untick the box that says automatically tag items with keywords and subject headings. Personally, I recommend turning it off because as you can see, it added a lot of keywords to this one reference, which makes it more difficult to sort your library later on. In order to delete any unwanted tags, simply select the minus icon next to all the tags that were included, and then to add one, select Add, pick your keyword, and then hit Enter. Now notice down here in the left-hand corner, our keyword was added. So this is going to help you organize your library later on. For example, if I select social media addiction, it pulls up the article that we just added that tag to. To unselect this, go ahead and re-click the tag, and then your library will repopulate all the references. Now we have one more tab located within the reference, which is going to be the related tab. And we kind of went over this in the notes section. Basically, this is where you can relate specific articles to one another. So you can kind of link them together. So here we are. We're using the topic of social media addiction. And so for our research, we want to add related articles to this one. So that way we remember that we're grouping them together. And so let's say we want to link this article right here. We'll highlight it, select OK, and then now we have a related article. You can go through, you can add as many as you want, just like that. And again, it's just another great tool for helping you with your research. But now let's move on to searching through your library. So right now we still have very few references, but eventually you're going to have hundreds. And so the easiest way is to use the search bar here at the top. Notice how it says title, creator, or year. So in other words, if you type in a keyword here, it's going to search the title, creator, or year. You can switch this to other options here in the drop-down menu. We're going to keep it as is, and here we go. Notice how I typed in social media and it pulls up all of my references that have social media within the title. So that's a pretty easy, straightforward way to search through your library. You also have the option to use the advanced search. This functions much like the search bar, except now we have more options for filtering. So as you can see, you can search through your library. You can change the criteria to match all or any of the following. So in other words, with the keywords, if it's going to match it verbatim or just a portion of it. You can search through the title, the date, the creator, so many more field options here. And then when it comes to contains, you can choose to search at the beginning if it contains it throughout, if it does not. The options, again, you have a lot more of them. So if we put in social media addiction, let's go ahead and hit enter. It's going to pull up the same list here since, again, we just searched for the same thing. But as you can see, it gives you more flexibility in your search. We're going to X out of this for now. And finally, let's talk about how to create collections and groups. So in other words, how to organize your library. Collections and groups are essentially the folder system within Zotero. The difference is that the groups are going to be located on the online portal for Zotero, where you can share them with other members, you can make them public, and collections is simply going to be your folder system within your desktop app. For this reason, we're going to focus on collections. So to access either one, you're going to come up here to the top left-hand corner. As you can see, we have new collection. And then over here, if you click this, this is where you would go to a new group, which would bring you to the online portal. For now, let's go ahead and create a new collection. The first thing you're going to do is give your collection a name. And so again, think of this as a folder system when creating the name. We're going to select OK. And then now we've created our first collection. The next thing we want to do is head back over to our library so we can add some items in this collection. And you have a few options. One, you can simply hold down on the item, drag and drop it into the collection. And as you can see, it'll copy and paste it into the collection. Another option is you can right-click on the item you want to add, and then here, add to collection, and then you want to make sure to find the correct one. Another option is to simply highlight multiple at once, like this. And again, you would just right click, add to collection, and then we're going to click our social media addiction and check it out. We have 4 new items in this collection. Now let's say you want to organize this even further. You have the option to add sub-collections within your collections. So for example, let's say we want to branch off into the different social media platforms. As you can see, this source is talking about YouTube. We know we're going to add a lot more items about YouTube, eventually Instagram, and so we want to keep all of that separate. What you can do is go over to the collection, right click, select new sub-collection, give it a name just as we did before, select OK, and then now we have the sub-collection. And just as you did previously, we can grab this article, drag and drop into the YouTube sub-collection, and now we have it located under there. When it comes to removing items within the collections, it's very important that you remove the item from the collection, that you don't move the item to trash. This way, if I select remove item, it just removes it from the collection. However, if I go into my library, it's still going to be located there. Now, the final thing you need to know in order to master Zotero is how to use it in whichever writing platform you use. So either Google Docs or Microsoft Word. If this is something that you'd like to learn, be sure to check out one of these videos next, where I'll walk you through how to create citations, insert your bibliography, and even some helpful referencing tips.